This is the Zodiac speaking. 7 words. Just 7 words. But they have haunted America for over half a century. In 1968, a phantom emerged on the desolate roads of Northern California. He had no face, no name, only a symbol, a crosshair within a circle, like the scope of a rifle aimed at the entire San Francisco Bay Area. He killed. Then he wrote letters bragging about it. He sent cryptic codes, challenging the world to solve them. He threatened to blow up a school bus full of children. And then he vanished, as if he never existed. More than 55 years have passed. The FBI still has not closed the case. Over 2,500 suspects have been investigated. And the true identity of the Zodiac Killer remains one of the greatest mysteries in American criminal history. But the question more terrifying than who was he is this: what was he thinking? Today, we will dive deep into the mind of America's most mysterious serial killer. Welcome to Cold Case Stories, where we tell true crime. Stories, unsolved mysteries, and tales of justice left unfinished. If this is your first time visiting the channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss our upcoming videos. Now, let us travel back to California, winter of 1968. Berryessa, California. A small, peaceful town about 30 miles northeast of San Francisco. Population under 10,000, a place where everyone knew each other, and violent crime was virtually non-existent. The night of December 20th, 1968. A cold winter evening. David Arthur Faraday, 17 years old, drove his mother's Rambler station wagon to pick up Betty Lou Jensen, 16 years old. This was their first official date. David was a senior at Vallejo High School. A well-behaved, hard-working young man with a bright future. Betty Lou was an honor student at Hogan High School, a member of the Pythian Sunshine Girls, a charitable organization for young women. They had met 2 weeks earlier at a church function. And like any teenagers in love, David had been skipping classes just to see Betty Lou. That evening, David promised Betty Lou's parents he would have her home by 11 o'clock. They never kept that promise. After visiting a friend's house, David drove to Lake Herman Road, a remote stretch of road known as a lover's lane for local teenagers. Around 10:15 p.m., a passing motorist spotted David's Rambler parked on a gravel turnout near a water pumping station. At 11 p.m., someone still saw them there. But just minutes after 11 p.m., everything changed. Around 11:10 p.m., a woman named Stella Borges was driving along Lake Herman Road when she discovered the tragedy. David's car door was wide open. One body lay beside the car. Another body lay nearly 30 feet away. Betty Lou Jensen was dead at the scene. She had been shot 5 times in the back while trying to run away. David Faraday was still breathing when police arrived. You could see his breath in the cold night air, but he had been shot once in the head at point-blank range. He died before reaching the hospital. Police found no witnesses, no usable tire tracks, no clear motive, no robbery, no sexual assault. Just 2 innocent teenagers, killed in cold blood for no apparent reason. The murder weapon was a .22 caliber semi-automatic pistol. 10 shell casings were scattered across the gravel. Detectives were baffled. The only motive they could think of was a madman who wanted to kill. They did not know this was only the beginning. 7 months passed. The Lake Herman Road case slowly went cold in the police files. Then came the night of July 4th, 1969, Independence Day. Darlene Elizabeth Ferrin, 22 years old, was a lively young woman. She worked as a waitress, was married, and had a young daughter. That night, she invited Michael Mageau, 19 years old, a younger friend, to go for a drive. Around midnight, Darlene drove her Corvair to Blue Rock Springs Park, just 2 miles from Lake Herman Road. Another secluded lover's lane. They parked in the empty lot. Fireworks from the Independence Day celebrations still echoed in the distance. Then another car pulled into the lot. It parked beside them for a moment. Then it drove away. 5 minutes later, the car returned. The driver stepped out, holding a blinding flashlight. He walked to Michael's side of the car and shone the light directly into their faces. Michael thought it was a police officer. He reached for his wallet. Not a single word was spoken. The man raised a 9mm handgun and fired. 5 shots shattered the quiet night. Michael was hit in the face, neck, and chest. Darlene was hit in the arm and back. The attacker turned and walked away. But when he heard Michael's agonized groaning, he came back. He fired 2 more shots into each of them. Then he calmly drove away. Darlene Ferrin was pronounced dead at the hospital at 12:38 a.m., but Michael Mageau survived. And exactly 2 minutes after Darlene died, the Vallejo Police Department received a phone call. The voice on the other end was slow, monotone, and chilling. I want to report a double murder. If you go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway to the public park, you will find the kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye. Nancy Slover, the dispatcher who took the call, described the voice as if it were reading from a prepared script. The call was made from a public payphone, just a few blocks from the police station. The killer did not just kill. He wanted everyone to know he had killed, and he wanted credit for both attacks. August 1st, 1969, 3 major Bay Area newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, each received nearly identical letters. I am the killer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman and the girl on the 4th of July. Each letter included a portion of a cipher, 408 mysterious symbols divided into 3 parts, sent to 3 different newspapers. The writer made a demand: print this cipher on the front page. If not, he would go on a killing spree over the weekend, targeting people walking alone at night until he reached a dozen victims. And he declared, "My identity is contained in this cipher." The newspapers complied. 3 days later, on August 4th, the Examiner received another letter, and this time, the killer gave himself a name. This is the Zodiac speaking. That name, Zodiac, would haunt America forever. Both the FBI and the CIA attempted to crack the 408 symbol cipher. They failed. But just 1 week after the cipher was published, an ordinary couple in Salinas, California, Donald and Betty Harden, cracked it. They were not cryptography experts. Donald was a high school teacher. Betty was a homemaker. They guessed that a killer would use the word "kill" in his message, and they were right. The decoded message read as follows: "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all. To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the people I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife." Read those words again, slowly. This is not just the confession of a killer. This is a window into the soul of a monster. Forensic psychologists have analyzed this message for decades, and what did they find? First, the phrase, "man is the most dangerous animal," is a direct reference to the short story, "The Most Dangerous Game" by Richard Connell, published in 1924. In the story, a wealthy count lives on a remote island, hunting humans for sport. Zodiac was not just reading, he was role-playing. He saw himself as the ultimate hunter, and his victims were merely prey. Second, the phrase, "even better than getting your rocks off with a girl," was analyzed by experts at the California Medical Facility as an expression of inadequacy, not physical, but psychological. Zodiac was incapable of forming normal relationships with others. He sought power and control through violence rather than intimacy. Third, the belief about collecting slaves for the afterlife is the strangest element. Some experts believe it was merely theater to increase mystery and fear. But others believe Zodiac may have genuinely exhibited traits of personality disorder, with delusional beliefs about his own supernatural powers. But there is one thing all experts agree on. Zodiac did not kill out of rage. He did not kill for sexual gratification. He did not kill for money. He killed for power, for control, and most importantly, for attention. He did not just want to kill. He wanted the whole world to know he had killed. He wanted to be feared, to be admired, to be remembered. And that is why he wrote letters. September 27th, 1969, a peaceful weekend afternoon at Lake Berryessa, about 75 miles north of San Francisco. Brian Hartnell, 20 years old, and Cecilia Shepard, 22 years old, were college students at Pacific Union College. They had dated 2 years earlier and were still close friends. That afternoon, they decided to have a picnic by the lake. Around 6 p.m., as they lay on the grass by the shore, Cecilia noticed a man standing behind some trees nearby. She felt uneasy, but Brian reassured her. Then the man stepped out. And this time, Zodiac no longer hid in the shadows. He wore a black executioner-style hood. On his chest was stitched a white symbol, the crosshair within a circle, and on his head was a black hood like that of a medieval executioner. Only his eyes were visible, covered by clip-on sunglasses. On his belt, he wore a knife sheath and a gun holster. Brian Hartnell later described that moment. "I thought I was seeing a nightmare come to life." The man approached them, pointing his gun directly at them. His voice was slow, monotone, almost mechanical. "I am an escaped convict. I killed a prison guard during my escape. I need your car and money to get to Mexico." Brian noticed the man's hands were trembling. "Your hands are shaking. Are you nervous?" Brian asked. The man laughed softly. "Yes, I guess so." He was nervous because he knew what was about to happen next. Zodiac ordered Cecilia to tie Brian up with pre-cut lengths of rope he had brought. He checked the knots, found them too loose, and tightened them himself. Brian still believed this was just a robbery, until Zodiac pulled out a knife. The blade was about 10 to 12 inches long, with a wooden handle. No warning, no explanation given. Zodiac stabbed Brian 6 times in the back. Then he turned to Cecilia, the girl who was tied up and could not move, and stabbed her 10 times. 5 in the back, 5 in the chest. He stood up. He calmly walked to Brian's car. Using a black marker, he drew the crosshair symbol on the car door. Below the symbol, he wrote, Vallejo, 12-20-68, 7-4-69, Sept, 27-69-630, by knife, a scorecard, a declaration of his crimes. Then he walked away. Brian Hartnell somehow remained conscious. He used his teeth to chew through Cecilia's bindings, and she freed him. A fisherman heard their screams and called for help. Cecilia was still conscious when police arrived. She provided a detailed description of the attacker before falling into a coma. She never woke up. Cecilia Shepard died 2 days later. Brian Hartnell survived with 6 stab wounds to his back, and he became the only witness who had ever seen Zodiac in full costume, heard his voice, and spoken with him. Brian described Zodiac's voice as slow and measured, monotone, with a unique quality that was hard to explain. But more important than any physical description, Brian realized something. He was not angry. He was not frenzied. He was completely calm, as if stabbing us was just a job that needed to be done. Lake Berryessa marked a crucial turning point in understanding Zodiac's psychology. The first 2 attacks, Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs, were both ambush-style shootings. Quick, efficient, low risk. But Lake Berryessa was completely different. Zodiac had prepared an elaborate costume. He brought pre-cut rope. He chose to use a knife instead of a gun, a slower, more intimate, more dangerous method for himself. Why? Criminal psychologists offer a chilling hypothesis. Zodiac was escalating. Shooting from a distance no longer satisfied him. He needed closeness. He needed to see his victims' fear. He needed to feel the absolute power of plunging a knife into their flesh. His costume, the executioner hood, the symbol on his chest, was not just to conceal his identity. It was a performance, a ritual. Zodiac was turning murder into his own twisted art form. And the act of leaving a scorecard on the car door. That is the sign of a self-obsessed individual who needs recognition for his achievements. Zodiac did not just want to kill. He wanted to be seen killing. October 11th, 1969, just 2 weeks after Lake Berryessa, Paul Lee Stine, 29 years old, was a taxi driver for Yellow Cab. He was also working toward his doctorate, driving a cab to pay for his education, a hard-working man with big dreams. Around 9:45 p.m., Paul picked up a fare near the Theater District in downtown San Francisco. The destination was logged as the corner of Washington and Maple Street, an affluent neighborhood called Presidio Heights. But when they arrived, the passenger asked to go 1 more block. At 9:55 p.m. at the corner of Washington and Cherry Street, the taxi stopped, and Paul Stine was shot once in the head. This time, Zodiac had completely changed his pattern. No longer young couples at secluded lovers' lanes. The victim was an adult man, working. The location was an upscale residential neighborhood in a major city with streetlights illuminating the area. And for the first time, there were direct witnesses. 3 teenagers were in a house directly across from the crime scene. They saw everything through their window. They watched the killer calmly exit the taxi, walk around to the driver's side, and wipe down the cab with a piece of cloth, later identified as a portion of Paul Stine's shirt. They called the police. 2 minutes later, 2 patrol officers, Donald Fook and Eric Zelms, were driving through the area. They spotted a white male walking on the corner, just yards from the crime scene. They slowed down, but then their radio crackled. Suspect is a black male. A fatal mistake. The dispatcher had misheard or incorrectly relayed information from the teenagers. The two officers drove on. That man, the white male they had just seen, was Zodiac. Later, Zodiac would brag about this moment in his letters to the press. The San Francisco police could have caught me last night if they had searched the park properly, instead of holding road races with their motorcycles, seeing who could make the most noise. 2 days later, the San Francisco Chronicle received a letter. Inside the envelope was a piece of blood-soaked cloth, a portion of Paul Stine's shirt. This is the Zodiac speaking. I am the murderer of the taxi driver over by Washington Street and Maple Street last night. To prove this, here is a blood-stained piece of his shirt. And then Zodiac issued his most terrifying threat. School children make nice targets. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning. Just shoot out the front tire and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. The San Francisco Bay Area was plunged into panic. Armed police officers were assigned to escort school buses. Aircraft patrolled bus routes. Parents were too frightened to send their children to school. Zodiac had achieved what he wanted. Absolute terror. Based on Zodiac's behavior, letters, and methods, FBI criminal psychologists constructed a detailed psychological profile. First characteristic: Zodiac was an organized killer. He did not kill on impulse. Every attack was carefully planned. He chose isolated locations, prepared his weapons, and had an exit strategy. The costume at Lake Berryessa, the hood, the chest symbol, the pre-cut rope, all were prepared in advance. This was not a crime of passion. Second characteristic: Zodiac displayed signs of narcissistic personality disorder. He craved attention. He demanded newspapers print his letters on the front page. He became angry when he was not mentioned. He viewed himself as a genius that police could not catch. In one letter, he wrote, "I have been too clever for them." This is a classic expression of grandiose delusion. Third characteristic: Zodiac showed signs of antisocial personality disorder. He lacked empathy. He viewed his victims as prey or slaves, not as human beings. He showed no remorse. Instead, he boasted. He even threatened to kill children, behavior that indicates a complete absence of conscience. Fourth characteristic: his belief about collecting slaves for the afterlife may indicate delusional or magical thinking. However, some experts believe it was merely theater to increase his mystique. But there is one point on which all experts agree. Zodiac was a power and control killer, combined with mission-oriented elements. He did not kill for sexual gratification like Ted Bundy. He did not kill for money like contract killers. He killed for the feeling of absolute power, the power to decide who lives and who dies. And he turned his murders into a game with the police, the press, and society itself. After the Paul Stine murder, Zodiac continued sending letters until 1974, but no murders have been confirmed after October 1969. Why would a killer who said he loved killing because it was so much fun suddenly stop? First theory: he died or was imprisoned for another crime. Many experts believe Zodiac may have passed away or gone to prison for an unrelated offense, preventing him from continuing to kill. Second theory: he changed his methods, killing in ways that looked like accidents, robberies, or random crimes to avoid being linked to the Zodiac brand. He himself warned of this in his letters. "I shall no longer announce my murders. They shall look like routine robberies, killings of anger, and fake accidents." Third theory, the attention faded, so his motivation disappeared. This is the most psychological theory. As the 1970s arrived, the public began losing interest in Zodiac. Other cases dominated the headlines. The press stopped mentioning him constantly. And for a narcissist like Zodiac, losing attention may have been more painful than being caught. If no one fears him, if no one talks about him, then what is the point of killing? Psychiatrist David Van Nuys offered a bold hypothesis. Zodiac may have suffered from multiple personality disorder. When the Zodiac personality was no longer fed by public attention, it may have gone dormant, leaving an ordinary man living an ordinary life somewhere, a sleeping monster, in the guise of an ordinary person. That thought is more terrifying than anything else. Zodiac did not just leave behind 5 confirmed victims. He left behind a legacy of fear. He proved that a killer could openly challenge society, brag about his crimes, threaten an entire community, and still escape. He inspired countless copycats, people who sent threatening letters, people who claimed to be the next Zodiac, and he became the template for countless villains in film, from Scorpio in Dirty Harry to John Doe in C7 and the Riddler in The Batman. But perhaps Zodiac's most terrifying legacy is the uncertainty. He could be anyone. Your neighbor, your coworker, the polite man you met on the bus this morning. Because we do not know who he is, we cannot know who he was. And in the darkness of that unknown, Zodiac lives on. As a ghost, a legend, an obsession that will never be laid to rest. More than 55 years have passed since Zodiac sent his last confirmed letter in 1974. Over 2,500 suspects have been investigated. Hundreds of documentaries have been produced. Thousands of amateur detectives have spent their lives trying to solve this mystery. And we still do not know who he was. But perhaps what we learn from the Zodiac case is not about finding his identity. What we learn is about the nature of evil. Evil does not always have a menacing face or wild eyes. Sometimes evil looks ordinary. It rides the bus, it works in an office, it smiles and talks like everyone else. And sometimes evil needs no reason. It kills simply because it can. David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, Darlene Ferrin, Cecilia Shepard, Paul Stine. They were real people, with dreams, with families, with futures ahead of them. But one dark night, they crossed paths with a phantom named Zodiac. And their lives ended there. We tell these stories not to glorify the killer. We tell them to remember the victims, to remind ourselves that behind every sensational case are real people who lost their lives, and to hope that one day justice will be served, no matter how late. Thank you for watching until the end of today's video. If you found this content interesting or valuable, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Cold Case Stories so you do not miss our next stories. What are your thoughts on this case? Who do you think Zodiac was? Leave a comment below. I would love to hear your perspective. This is Cold Case Stories, where forgotten stories are told. See you in the next video.